Alright, geometry students, so it's been a while since algebra class, and to prepare for our next lesson, we're going to do a review about slope. So this is the first part of our review. We should be able to find the slope, aka rate of change, of a line from a graph and between 2 points. So that is the overall goal for this lesson. Make sure that you are following along in your notes. So let's talk about slope. What is slope? Well, we know from algebra that slope is the rate of change between 2 points, 2 variables, or 2 types of values. So we mainly use slope to compare the relationship between 2 quantities. The variable we use for slope is m, and remember that we have specific formulas to calculate slope. We can call it, slope is the change in y over change in x. That's one way of thinking of it. Or the difference in y over the difference in x. We can also call it delta y over delta x. The Greek letter delta just means change, so change in y over change in x. We also know that we can call this rise over run. So how far we move up or down on a graph divided by how far we move left to right on a graph. So here's a review of the 4 types of slope we usually run into. If a line is moving up and to the right across a graph, it has a positive slope. And an example of a positive slope might be 3/4. That means for every 3 points we move up on the graph, we move right 4. If we are moving down and to the right with a line on a graph, that means it has a negative slope. And here's an example of a negative slope, maybe -5/2. For every 5 units we move down on a graph, we are moving right 2. Now we have a horizontal line. A horizontal line represents a 0 slope. That means there is no rise to this line. So an example, when you're calculating slope, you might get 0/8. 0 over any number besides 0 would give you a 0 slope. And lastly, our vertical line. Vertical lines have an undefined slope, meaning there is a rise, but there is no run. So an example slope might be 3/0. Again, 0 is the run. You cannot divide by 0, that's why the slope is undefined. So let's talk about finding slope on a graph. If we are given a graph, the method we use to find slope would be rise over run. So m equals rise over run. Change in y over change in x. So in the first problem, we're trying to find the slope of line AB. And so to find slope, we are looking at the change up and down first. So I'm going to draw an arrow up to the level of point B. And I notice that I'm moving up 1, 2, 3, 4 points. The change in y, or the rise, is up 4. The run from left to right from this arrow I drew would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And since I'm moving to the right 5, that is a positive 5 change. So my overall slope of this line would be positive 4/5. Now looking at number 2, finding the slope of line PQ. I'm going to use my same method, rise over run. So I'm going to draw an arrow down to the level of point Q, from P to Q. And I notice that I moved down 3 units. If I'm moving down on the graph, that represents a negative change. The rise is -3. My run, my change left to right, I'm going to move from this arrow all the way over to point Q. And if I count, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm moving to the right. So this is a +6 change. My run is +6. And if I reduce this ratio or this fraction, -3 divided by +6, that would be -1/2. So my slope is -1/2. For additional practice on calculating the slope given a graph, try out problems 3 and 4. Now let's try to find slope between 2 points. So if we are given an ordered pair, we're going to use the slope formula. And that says that the slope is equal to one y value minus the other divided by the one x value minus another. So y2 minus y1, your second y value minus your first y value, divided by x2 minus x1, your second x value minus your first x value. So in number 7, we're going to find the slope of line xy, and the points given are x, which is at 9, -4, and y at 9, 2. So to calculate our slope, we're going to take our second y value, which is 2, minus our first y value, so 2 minus -4, divided by our second x value, 9, subtracted, and then subtract our first y value, or first x value, which is 9. So when I do the math here, 2 minus -4 is the same as 2 plus 4, that's 6, and 9 minus 9 is 0. So remember, we can't divide by 0. This is actually an undefined slope. So the line xy is a vertical line. Okay, and number 8, we're going to find the slope of line RS with points R and S. So again, change in y over change in x. -3 minus -3 for the rise, our two y values subtracted from each other, and then our x values, 0 minus -7. Okay, -3 minus -3 is the same as -3 plus 3, so that's 0. And 0 minus -7 is the same as saying 0 plus 7, so it's 7. 0 over 7 just reduces to 0. This line has a 0 slope, which means it is horizontal. And for additional practice with finding the slope between 2 points, try out problems 5 and 6. You can also try out the following page. You do not need to do all of those problems, but do feel free to try out a few. And that's it for this lesson. I hope it was helpful to you. Make sure that you're trying out a couple additional practice problems. Check your answers with me in my filled-in notes. Go to the content library and topic 2 notes for that. And then ask me for support in Math Help Desk if you need it. Thank you again for watching.